Om Brahmanandam Paramasukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamatsyaadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalam Achalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashakrutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha. Om Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. So we are on the part of Vivek Shramani where the Guru is replying the question, what is bondage? Kaha Bandaha was a question that was asked by the disciple in verse 47. And the reply now is that the jiva or the person or us identifying with the not self. And what is the not self? We have studied in detail. It is the body, mind, intellect is the not self. So identification with the not self is bondage. And it arises due to ignorance. And what is identification with the body, mind, intellect is considering that I am the body, I am the mind, I am the intellect. So when I say that I am the body, whatever is happening to the body, I say it is happening to me. I am getting old, I am getting wrinkles, I am getting fat, I am getting thin. Mind, I am happy, I am sad, I am jealous, I am this, I am intelligent, I am dull. So all these things which we assign to ourselves, these changes that we assign to ourselves, this is this taking on this is not inherent. It is not inherent. We are imposing those changes on ourselves, we being the supreme self, but we impose these changes on ourselves, and that is what is known as bondage. That's why then I feel limited. I feel insulted when somebody says, oh, you're getting old, or you're beautiful, you're not beautiful, or whatever people talk about our body, about our mind, about our intellect. I take it upon myself and then I feel hurt. Bondage is hurt. It'll hurt because something which I'm not, I've taken it upon myself. And now when somebody says something about that thing, not self, it's hurting me. Okay, that is what it is. And then, of course, identifying with the body, he nourishes it because, you know, I'm hungry, so I'm going to eat. I'm this, I have to be healthy. I have to exercise. All this is coming out of that. And then why is this happening? Atasmin tatta buddhihi, I told you, in that there is a notion of this. So in that rope, there is a notion of snake. There is a notion of snake. So in that body, there is a notion of Atma. This is ulta. So body, which is matter, which is snake, I think it is the rope. I think it is Atma. I think the body is Atma. I think the mind is Atma. It is not. But this is what I think. That is what this is. And it is happening because of the lack of discrimination. That is why discrimination was one of the most important qualities. We start the four sadhana chatushtaya with viveka. Unless we have the discrimination, we are never going to have dispassion. So that is where we start that. And then he goes on to say, it is mistaking the not self for the self. That's what it means. Not self is the body. Self is what I am. So I have mistaken the not self to be me, to be me. So that is what is happening. We had completed that verse 138, right? Bandha Shrunu Sakhe. Have we completed it?
Yes, that's correct. We finished 138, we're on 139.
Correct. So now we have to start with 139. The topic of bondage is going on. And if you read the verse just before the verse 139, in the unhappy wedlock of Atman and Anatman, Gurudev used to call it the unholy wedlock. It is inauspicious. There cannot happen a wedlock like that, and it has happened, and it's not holy. It's not good. That is what Gurudev used to say. अखंड नित्या द्वयबोध शक्त्या स्फुरन्तमात्मानमनन्त वैभवं समावृणोत्यावृतिशक्तिरेषा तमोमयी राहुरिवार्कबिम्बम् तमोमयी राहुरिवार्कबिम्बम्. Avruti, the veiling power, is of the nature of tamas. It covers the self, whose glories are infinite, which is indivisible, eternal and one without a second, just as Rahu covers the sun during a solar eclipse. So in tradition, we know what the solar eclipse is. It is actually the moon coming in between the sun. You know, science, physics tells us that when the moon comes in between the earth and the sun is as though covered, as though Eva, because sun is much bigger than the moon. Moon cannot cover the sun, but as though it. But in Hindu tradition, they say this Rahu planet swallows the sun for a little while, and so you see. So that is the example that is given. And what is the powers of Maya? There are two powers of Maya. We've seen that. One is a veiling power, and one is the projecting power. So why is this bondage happening? That is what is now being told. Why do I consider the body to be self? Why do I consider Anatma to be Atma? And he says, Avruti, the veiling power of the nature of tamas. So veiling power is coming from tamas. Projecting power comes from rajas. It covers the self whose glories are infinite. So our very famous example of rope and snake. That's why I told you, this veiling is not like an iron curtain where you don't see anything. It is like a nylon curtain. So through the nylon curtain, you see something, but not clearly. And that is the reason. So what happens is we see the body moving, the body talking, the mind feels, the intellect thinks, and all these are signs of life. Right? Movement, thinking, feeling, all these are signs of life. So I take that to be myself. I am alive, and the body is doing all this. The mind is feeling all this. The intellect is thinking all this. That's where the perceiver, feeler, thinker comes. And I take myself to be the perceiver, feeler, thinker without going anything beyond as to why this is happening. This is inert. How can it perceive? How can it feel? How can the body perceive? How can the mind feel? And how can the intellect think? That part I don't think. I just say, I think, I feel, and I perceive. I am real, and I am this perceiver, feeler, thinker. So that is the veiling, like where I don't clearly think. These thoughts don't come. Like, okay, body is matter. Then how can it see? How can inert things see? So there is something which is making it see. That is what I need to understand. And so I shift a little bit inwards into the jiva or the ego or the reflection or chidabhas. They're all synonyms. So it is because of that chidabhasa that this body can speak, this mind can think, feel, and then this intellect can think. Okay. So then I say, okay, I'm the chidabhasa, I'm the chidabhasa. Then you go a little bit more deeper. Can that chidabhasa, can that reflection have any real reality? This is how this veiling is to be removed. It is happening because of the veiling. It is happening because of the tamasic power of Maya or Prakriti or Avidya. It has, those of us, we are studying the Trigunatmika Maya in chapter 14. Prakriti is Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. It is Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. So because of this tamasic guna, this veiling happens. If the veiling were not to happen, we would never project the snake on the rope. We would not do that. But veiling is happening because I am seeing the snake. That's what tells me that the veiling is happening. The projection is what is telling me that the veiling is happening. If the projection is not there, then know that there cannot be any veiling. Okay, they go hand in hand. But first veiling happens. First projection doesn't happen. Veiling happens first, projection comes next. So it is, this self is infinite, indivisible. But what am I thinking? My body is made out of parts. My body can be divided. My body is different from your body. All these things I think, I'm different from all the objects. I'm different from all the people. I'm more intelligent. I'm more compassionate. I'm more kind. All these differences that I see, they're not there in Atma. But I see them. And that is what is bondage. Seeing things where they are not there. There is no difference, but I see the difference. That's what atasmin tat buddhi is. Where there is, things are not there, I see that. And what I should be seeing, I don't see. And he gives the example of this Rahu. So partial Rahu is said to not have a neck, just have a face. And so it's like partially it can swallow the sun. And then the sun comes out of the neck, like, because the Rahu is only the head. He doesn't have a body. So these are the things that are said. Next. Tiro bhute swatmani amala tarate jovati puman anatmanam mohat aham iti shariram kalayati tata kama krodha prabhuti bihi amum bandhana gunaihi param vikshepa akhya rajasa uru shantihi vyathayati. So first the veiling comes as in the previous verse, and that veiling now is giving rise to rajas. And now what happens in rajas, what happens in the projection is what is being told. When a man's own self of purest splendor is hidden from his direct experience. Okay, why is it hidden? Because of tamas, veiling. So basically, when the rope is hidden from my direct experience, you can translate it like that. When the rope is hidden, then what happens? Due to ignorance, rope is hidden due to ignorance, comes to falsely identify himself with his body, which is the not self. Then the merciless persecution of rajas, projecting power, binds him down with fetters of lust, anger, etc. So first the veiling happens. I consider the rope is veiled. I consider it to be a snake. And then what happens? Fear. Then the running starts. Or somebody said, why you should always say snake, snake? You know, I always see garland. So I'm very happy. You're saying Rajas persecutes? No, 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 no. I see garland, so I'm happy. That is not persecution. But the thing is, when you see the garland, you're still running. That's the problem. Running is the problem. You either run towards happiness or you run away from sorrow. Your running is not stopping. And so things of happiness, when you run towards and you get, again, there is fear of loss. Again, there is fear of, what if I lose it? I got it now. What if I lose it? So that's why it is said that when the rope is not seen as a rope, it can be seen as a garland, it can be seen as a snake, but both snake and garland are going to persecute you, because your running is not going to stop, your fear is not going to stop. So in our case, what happens is, because the Atma is hidden, I don't understand. That's why I'm telling you again, Bhagavan has started the explanation of Atma with Asti. There is some, never ever think that other than the body, mind, intellect, there is nothing. There is something. And I don't have it in my direct experience, because my direct experience is I'm this body, mind, intellect. Right now, that is what I feel. And when I consider this body, then whatever the needs of the body is my desire, because it's my body, it's me. And then I want food, I want clothes, I want a car, I want a house, I want a spouse, I want a child, I want money, I want promotion. All these things start. And then the running starts, because desire, it will make you act. The more intense the desire, the more intense action will come. And when the desire is very intense and you don't get it, then that directly proportionate is the anger, that I didn't get this thing. Or if I get the thing, directly proportionate is the greed. I ran after this, I got this, now I'm going to run more and I'm going to get more. That is persecution. That is bondage. Because it is now creating more and more vasanas in our subtle body level, causal level, and which is now going to give us birth. We don't realize that. See, most of the people don't realize this. We have come in contact with this knowledge, and therefore this is how it is. This is how Shruti says it. And think, think about your own experiences. Think how upset we used to, at least I used to be, when in the young days, when you don't get this, when we don't get that, used to be very, very upset. And that was tying us down. So at least now when we know, we can stop running. There was a question, is Rachna here? Rachna, her name is? I think she isn't here, but she had asked a question in the Sunday class. She said, how do we get rid of desires? There was one question that was asked. Right? Do you remember? Yeah. So see, the one way of getting rid of desire, because desire is the root cause of all this. It starts with kama. See, kama, krodha. So first root is desire. So how do I get, one of the ways of getting, toning down the desire is to have complete faith, very, very strong faith that if this particular thing that I desire, if it is in my destiny, it will come to me. Nobody can change my destiny, because I have worked for that destiny. Even God cannot change our destiny. Please remember, Ishvara also cannot come at the last present moment and say, now I'm not going to give you this. That is how strong destiny. Prarabdha is extremely strong. So whatever is in your prarabdha, it is going to walk to you, let me tell you. And that's why even when death is there, the death will actually, it will call you to its place. You cannot avoid it. So whatever is there, it will come. And if it's not there, you can bang your head for the rest of your life. You're not going to get it. So then why run? Not that you not work towards it. Please don't misunderstand. Those of you who are young, suppose you want a promotion, so you do work towards it. We are not saying that, oh, if there is I will not appear for the exam. Suppose if there is some test that has to be taken, if I'm going to get promoted, I will. No, that doesn't work. You do study for your exam or test. You do take it, but if that promotion doesn't come, then don't be that upset. because then think that it is not meant for you this time, maybe next time, maybe next year. Okay, so this is the manifestation of Rajas. This is what this projection does. So when I have projected that I am the body, because it's a projection, I'm not really the body, but I have projected I'm the body. Now the body needs n number of things, n number of desires, n number of actions, n number of results. Next birth. Okay, this is what happens. This is what is happening. Binds him down with fetters of lust and anger. Okay. Mahamoha graha grasana galita atma vagamanoho dhiyo nana avastham swayam abhinayam tad gunataya apare samsare vishaya vishapure jalanidhau nimanjonmadhyayam bhramati kumatihi kutsita gatihi. I'm sure there is a meter for all these verses, but I prefer to like break it into a little bit of a prose order so it becomes a little bit easier to understand. When an individual's self-knowledge is swallowed up by the shark of delusion, so this graha grasana galita, that is what it is. He dances to the tune of his intellect according to the various conditions of its likes and dislikes, just as a drunkard behaves, forgetting that he is a decent, respectable man. So another example, when a person is drunk under the influence of alcohol, I mean, we see that, people driving, that's what, mad is all about, right? Mothers against drunk drivers. Because your faculties are not under your control anymore. That's what drinking does. So even in ignorance, that is what happens. In ignorance that I am that pure self, I'm dancing to the tunes of my mind. That's the running. What I mildly put it is, Bhagavan Shankaracharya, literally you're doing a dance for what you want and what you don't want. You're trying to avoid what you don't want. You're trying to get what you want. And then this goes on. Apare sausare, para is boundary. This sansar, that's why it's called as ocean. There is no boundaries to it. There is no end to it. This is what sansar is. Samsarati iti sansar. So things change. What I like today, tomorrow I don't like it. What I don't like today, tomorrow I like it. Then I go after it. And there is no end to it. There's no end to these likes and dislikes. Guruji has given a very beautiful example of the Kleenex, the tissue box. He said, you pull one tissue out, the next tissue is waiting there for you. So desires are like that. You fulfill one desire, there definitely is another desire lurking behind it. That's why apare. No end, no boundary. We have a very mistaken idea that if I fulfill my desires, the desires will be fulfilled and will be finished. That is absolutely wrong. That's why this desire also is called as fire. Fire, you add fuel to it, you think the fire will be doused? Fire will be even more, so more lit, right? The more you add. So desires are like that. The more you fulfill the desire, the more it will be, they'll be coming up. And then different things you will start desiring. Trust me, especially in this time of COVID, when we are all isolated, you see an ad on TV and you're like, okay, I want that, So this is how the desires are. Jala, see, Vishapure Jalanidho, Nimanja. So he, oh, okay, I have not read this. An individual who has a perverted intellect, whose knowledge of his self has been swallowed by the shark of complete ignorance, behaves as though the different states of his intellect were the natures of the self. Intellect, same like body, mind, intellect. That's what I told you. Body is old, I say I am old. Body is fat, I say I am fat. Mind is happy, sad, I say I am happy, sad. Intellect is intelligent or dull or whatever. I am intelligent, I am dull. This is what this is, okay? were the natures of the self. The nature of the self means who is the self? I is the self. Actually, this I is the self, is Atma. But now I consider it to be body mind, which drifts up and down, now rising and now sinking on the ocean of change. This is what Gurudev has said, the log of wood. We are holding on to the log of wood. We are holding on to matter. So when that log of wood goes up in a high wave, then we go up, isn't it? When something happy happens, we are up, up, up there. And then when something sad happens, we are down, down, down there. And this is what we are doing, which is full of poison of sense pleasures. Poison, see how Bhagwan Shankaracharya. So sense pleasures we actually think is nectar now, because you know when the senses get all, we are so happy, happy, happy. So why is he calling it a poison? Because it is leading to your death. Poison is what? Poison is something that kills us. So these sense pleasures, they are leading you to your death. How? No, I don't die. I enjoy and I'm so happy. Yes, but you have now created a groove for yourself. You have created a vasana for yourself. And when you die, when the body dies, you never die. When the body dies, another body is waiting for you. So you're going from death to death, like Kathopanishad says. Lord Yama doesn't say you go from birth to birth. He says these individuals who are ignorant of their real self go from death to death to death. And that's why poison of sense pleasures. The one who is really want to evolve in spirituality must be very careful of the sense pleasures. Not that you don't enjoy, but don't get caught in them. Brahmati kumatihi kutsita gatihi. Ocean of sense. Indeed, what a calamitous fate. Brahmati. So Brahmati is in a delusory state, you're wandering. Where are we wandering? Between bodies. We go on wandering between one body after the other. Kumatihi, mati is intellect. Kumati is bad intellect. Sumati, that's why is good intellect. This is kumati because your intellect is now deluded. It has become kumati. It is not sumati. So kumati. Kutsita gatihi. Gati, your gati is your forward journey. Gati here means journey. So journey of the jiva. Because the body will perish and it will get burned. But the jiva is going to continue its journey. And then kutsita gati means it's going to continue and go down only. Okay, this is what bondage is going to be doing. And what is bondage? Considering myself to be the body, mind, intellect is bondage. And why is the bondage? You know, if you were to take an essence of all these verses, first of all, what is bondage? I think that I am the body, mind, intellect. Number one. Why is the bondage happening? Because of ignorance, because of tamas. What is the ignorance? Ignorance is of my own real self. Because that is veiled, because the rope is veiled, I see the snake. So because my real nature is veiled from my intellect, I consider myself to be the body, mind, intellect, and then I dance to the tune of the body, mind, intellect. That is rajas. The dancing is rajas. The veiling is tamas. So because the real self is veiled, and a projection has been made that I am the BMI, then whatever the BMI needs, wants, desires, I keep on dancing to its tune. Okay, and then what happens? Okay, so I'll keep dancing. What's your problem? No, I have no problem. Bhagavan said, I have no problem. But then you're going from death to death. Death, no, I'm not dying. I'm happy in my sense pleasures. I'm happy. Yeah, you are happy, but you're creating vasanas for yourself. And this is what your gati is going to be. Your forward journey is going to be kutsita. Means you're going to continue on your journey. There is no respite. There will not be any respite for you. You will constantly be running. Okay, any questions? Yes, Narayanji.
You know, and just trying to clarify, when a person is in a serious pursuit of scriptural studies, like the Tibra Mukham, is that called a desire or is it something else?
It is also a desire, but it is a noble desire, because that is a desire which is now going to free you from all other material desires. It is a desire. And in Bhagwan Shankaracharya, in his this thing, he said in the ultimate analysis, even the desire for liberation has to be given up, because it is a desire. But it is a better desire than a desire for material objects. So in your initial stages, you must have that desire, because that will detach you from these other desires. That detachment is required. That's why Gurudev has said attach and detach. Like the monkey holds on to a branch and then lets go of the previous branch. So we also have to hold on to this desire for liberation, which is making us attend these classes. And this will slowly, slowly take us away from the material desires. And in the ultimate analysis, the pole vaulter, you drop the pole before you jump. So you will drop this desire also. It'll automatically go away. It's like Ramakrishna Paramahansa has given the example. There's a thorn stuck in your foot. So you take another thorn and you remove this thorn. Now, do you hold on to that other thorn? Second thorn. You remove the first. So you hold on to that desire. You get the second thorn, which is the desire for liberation. You get it. With that, you remove this desire for material world. With that. Then that thorn also you drop. But you need that. So in the initial stages, you do need it.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
You referred in one of the previous classes of Swami Vimalananda's book.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very serious about getting that book to read it.
Mm-hmm.
About that? What do you say? Is that a desire to progress, or is it something I'm going away from it?
No. You should read that book. Unfortunately, I have to check, but Yasmina tells me that we don't have any copies left in the ashram of that book. But I want to reconfirm that. Not to lose, not too tight, right? That's the book you're referring to? Not to lose. You must read that book, because it is giving you an idea of the gunas, and then it is telling you that there is a particular behavior which all of us do. For example, sleep. We all sleep. Nobody can say that, oh, I don't sleep at all. Everybody sleeps. So how that same sleep will become sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic? Or we all have a job, different jobs. Then how that job will become sattvic, rajasic, tamasic? We all are retired. Okay, so, not all. Some of us are retired. Now we are spending our time. How that time, people say, oh, time, of course time passes. That is the nature of time. What are you doing with that time? Are you only on the phone? Are you only on the iPad? Are you only on WhatsApp? Are you only on TV? Or are you reading some scriptural books? That is where the difference comes. So that book is this thing. I have to reconfirm. I'll confirm. Okay. In the Monday class, I'll show you those books. So any other questions? Everybody okay?
Jayaji, I was just going to say that you mentioned in our Monday class that we should not be servants of the
gunas.
So I guess the same principle applies here, that we should not be servants, and we should be able to bring whichever guna we want at that particular time, depending on what we are doing and what we need to do.
Yeah, what action is required. Yeah. But here the topic of bondage is going. That's why even in chapter 14, Bhagwan said these gunas bind. Why? How the gunas bind? Here bondage, what is bondage? Because I consider myself to be the body. Now the body has gunas, right? Because it's matter. So now all those gunas are mine. I am sattvic, I am rajasic, I am tamasic, and then they are pushing me to act. And that is how I'm getting bound more and more and more.
Yeah.
Okay. So verse 143, like I told you, this was the verse that was assigned to me. And if I have your permission, I would like to read what I wrote 12 years ago, and I read to my batchmates. So if it's okay with you guys, I shall read that. See, it's always our own creation is always very dear to us, you know, that's what it is. Anyway, let's read this verse first. Kavalita dinanathe durdina sandra meghaihi vyatayati hima jhanjavayuhu ugro yathaitan avirata tamasa atmani avrute mooda buddhim kshapayati bahudukkaihi tivra vikshepa shaktihi. The Anvaya, now I think we were asked to give
you missed the 142 verse.
Did I miss 142?
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh yes, I did. Sorry about that. So let's go back to 142. Now I lost the beat. Okay. Bhanu prabhasan janitabrapangtihi bhanum tirodhaya vijrumbhate yatha atmoditaham kritiratma tattvam tatha tirodhaya vijrumbhate swayam. As the formations of clouds generated by the sun's rays come to veil the very same sun and appear clearly manifest in the sky, so too the ego arises from the self, covers the reality of the self, and expresses itself in full manifestation. This example also we have given many, many times. We see clouds covering the sun. Now, the first thing is, can the cloud ever cover the sun? Sun is so huge. Sun is so far away. Clouds are right here, very close to the earth. They're much smaller than the sun. And yet it appears, that's why Eva, it appears as if the clouds are covering the sun. Number one. Second point, how did the clouds, how do I even notice the clouds? Do I notice clouds at night? No, I notice the clouds because of the sun. Because the sun is illumined in the back of the cloud, that's why the cloud gets illumined to me and I see the cloud. The very cloud which I see because of the sun itself veils the sun. Itself as though covers the sun. As though word very important again. Is this understood? Right? Okay. The clouds which are seen because of the sun. The clouds, which are much smaller, can never ever cover the sun. They appear as though they are covering the sun to me. Same way. The ego, which has come because of the pure consciousness. What is the ego? Chidabhasa, reflection. Can a reflection ever happen without the object? Can the reflection of the sun happen in the bucket without the sun itself being there? So the reflection, the ego is appearing because of the pure consciousness, and the ego is much smaller than pure consciousness is all pervading. Ego is not all pervading, and yet for me, that ego as though covers the pure self. And when, that's why as though, it cannot really cover. So as though it covers, and that is the tamas, and because of that covering, I start projecting. Okay. That's why we always give the cloud example is we say, so to see the sun, what you want to do? You just only have to remove the clouds. The sun is self-illumining. You don't need, I remove the clouds. Now, do I need a flashlight to see the sun? No, because they say, how will you know the self? You don't worry about knowing the self. You just reduce your ego. You just, people are worried, you know, how will I see? If my ego goes, then how will I see? Arey, you don't worry, that you don't worry. They worry about unnecessary things and don't do what things are necessary. The necessary thing is to remove the ego. The self will shine by itself. All right? Okay. Tatha tirodhaya vijrumbhate swayam. Swayam. Vijrumbhate swayam. This is very important. Swayam by itself it will shine. The sun by itself it will shine. You don't need anything else. Same way the self will shine by itself. You just reduce your ego.
What I was asking was, like when you said because of the reflection of the self, you can see the ego. I mean, the ego comes into
the ego.
it comes into the thing. So
Play.
that means each individual or each body has its own ego.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely correct. That's why there are many, many egos, but the sun, like there are many buckets, so there'll be many reflections, but the sun is always one. And then the ego is sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic. There is no sattva, rajas, tamas in the self. That point is to be understood. Yeah. And why is this reflection sattva, rajas? Because the medium is sattva, rajas, and tamas. The reflection is by itself is not, because why? It is a reflection of the pure self. But then the medium is either shaking or dirty or clean.
Okay.
Okay. That's where the gunas come in. Finally, I get to see my verse. Do I have time? Yes, I do have time. I'm so happy. Anyway, I read the verse and I've read, okay, so I will read the meaning and I will read the Anvaya first. Now, okay, that's what I was getting at. Anvaya is the prose order of the poetic verse. See, the verse is, when there is a poetry or a song, the words are changed. All of you know that, right? So when we do the prose order, that's how we are taught. They tell us the prose order and then it becomes much easy to understand. Because otherwise which word goes where and all that. Because in poetry, you have the freedom. Maybe there is a word in the last line which actually applies to the first line. Or maybe there is a word in the first line which actually is supposed to be for the last line. So this Anvaya helps you. The Anvaya of this verse is Yatha. It actually starts with Yatha. Yatha means just as. So Yatha Sandra Meghaihi Kavalita Dinanathe Durdine Ugraha Jima Jhanja Vayuhu Etan Vyathayati Tatha is to be added. In prose, Yatha Tatha, just as, therefore, Tatha. So that Tatha word is not there in the verse, but in the prose, we have to add it to understand it. Tatha Avirata Tamasa Atmani Avrate Tivra Vikshepa Shaktihi Muda Buddhim Bahu Dukkhehi Kshapayati. Okay, so the translation of that is just as, because the translation of this Anvaya, okay, Yatha, it started with Yatha. So just as when the sun is covered up by the clouds, cold shivering blasts persecute man. This is the prose order of it, okay. So also, Tatha, so also, when the Atman is covered by sheer ignorance, the dreadful power of Vikshepa, projection, persecutes the foolish man with endless sorrows. Now see how easy it is to understand this verse, right? Okay, so this is what I read with your permission now. I have your permission, right? All right. And we had to, by the way, I didn't have the paper. Now I have the paper. There's no paper. We were not allowed to use the paper. And this actually had memorized this verse and memorized the Anvaya also, because no paper. Anyway, when I read this verse, the first thought that came to my mind was that Sri Shankaracharya could not have possibly been in Mumbai when he wrote this. Where are there cold blasts in Mumbai ever? That's why I was nicknamed Vancouver, by the way, just a little secret. So my batchmates named me Vancouver after that, because I always brought Vancouver in my thing. So I conveniently superimposed that he was in Vancouver when he wrote this verse. This is the description of a typical winter day in Vancouver. The clouds cover the sun and there is a cold, freezing wind blowing. If you're caught in this without a jacket, you are really going to get persecuted. Similarly, Bhagwan says that when the Atman or the true self is covered by deep tamas, the projecting power gets activated and man suffers, gets persecuted because of these projections. Let us now think about the example given. Can the clouds ever really cover the sun, quote unquote, cover the sun? No. No. The sun is 1.4 million kilometers in diameter. All this research we did that time. 109 Earths can fit in it. So it is not possible for any cloud to cover the sun. Then what is it that is being covered? That's to be understood. What is it being that is covered? It is actually our eyesight that is covered, not the sun. It is because of this that clouds, which were formed in the first place because of the sun and which can be seen only because of the presence of the sun, block the very sun to whom they owe their existence. If it was not for the sun, there would have been no clouds and no covering. Similarly, the veiling power, Avrana Shakti of Maya, as though covers the Atman, as though, important words. Question is, can Maya or ignorance, no matter how powerful it is, cover the Atman? That's the question. Not really, not really. If it were to really cover Atman, then Atman would become limited and Maya would prove to be more powerful than Atman. Okay. What is being veiled then? It is our intellect, our buddhi, which has this covering of Maya or ignorance. Because of this covering on our intellect, delusion happens. We have recently seen in Mandukya Upanishad that delusion can never happen in the domain of complete experience or complete ignorance. The fact that there is delusion here is because of the fact that even though ignorance covers the Atman, we do know that there is something because of which we are functioning. Due to this partial knowledge, delusion or vikshepa happens. It is like if I entered and I don't see the rope at all or see very clearly in the light that there is actually a rope, then I would never project a snake. It is when I see something, but it is not very clear to me, that I tend to project a snake, or I may even project a garland. Both are delusions. So after and because of the veiling, the projecting power of Maya comes into effect, and these projections make me miserable. Like I said, it is not only that I become miserable, but I can also become happy if I project something that I like and I want. Both are a problem because they both become a bondage and a cause for future births. These two powers of ignorance or Maya are due to Tamoguna and Rajoguna. We have heard a detailed explanation of the expressions of the gunas previously. The gunas themselves are unmanifest. They can only be inferred by their expressions. Now, Bhagwan says that these projections persecute man endlessly. So explain endless. First, endless. Why endless? Like I said, okay, I see a garland, I'm happy. Why endless? Any experience, misery or happiness, is never endless. The experience is not endless. Doesn't the experience end? Every experience ends. Both end at some point or other. Endless because they create impressions in our mind and subject us to birth and death, which does not even end at pralaya. So when the final delusion happens, our birth and death doesn't end. Final pralaya will happen, and when the creation will happen, we will take birth again. Okay, okay. So that is why it's endless. It is easy to understand persecution with reference to misery, but what if the projection is giving me happiness? Am I being persecuted then? Because when we use the word persecution, we think of sorrow. That's why, okay? Yes, because persecution happens not because of the experience itself, but because we identify with that experience and then want to run away from sorrows and run towards joy. We not only identify with the experience, but also with the experiencer and the experiencing. So all three we are identifying with. Identification with the experiencer gives rise to I am the doer enjoyer. Identification with experienced gives joy and sorrow, and identification with the experiencing gives rise to thoughts of running away or repeating. All these three identifications bind. There's identification 3 levels. Okay. Thus, running away and running towards binds us to samsara and becomes the cause of future births and deaths. This repeated cycle of birth and death is what is meant by persecution. As we have seen in chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita, we have to give references because, we had studied all this. This cycle does not even end during Pralaya. Once again, the world is created and all jivas come back as per their vasanas. Therefore, unless the identification stops, the persecution can never stop. Now, there are 3 types of veilings as enumerated by Sri Krishna in chapter 3, verse 38. See, we had to talk for 5 minutes. Okay, so we had to add things that were the same. Dhume vriyate vannihi yatha darsho malena cha yatholbena vruto garbha tatha tenedamavrutam. Just as smoke covers fire, dust covers mirror, and membrane covers fetus, so also this is covered by that. This and that means knowledge and desires, which are nothing but an expression of ignorance. Smoke and fire. Smoke is born with the fire, but it does not hinder the capacity of fire to emit heat and light. Also, a slight breeze can remove the veiling easily. The very fact that we have taken birth presupposes a veiling of ignorance. If it wasn't there, there would have been no birth. But this veiling, being very light, a sattvic veiling, as we would call it, can be removed with a little knowledge. Dust and mirror. Dust is not born with the mirror. It collects afterwards and it hinders the capacity of the mirror to reflect. To clean the dust off, we would have to take a cloth and wipe. So it takes a little more effort and time to remove this veiling. So also this type of Rajasic veiling is gathered during the lifetime of the person and will take a conscious effort to be overcome. Membrane and fetus. Membrane is present in the womb before the fetus is conceived. This is the thickest kind of veiling and requires time and effort to come out of. A human fetus takes 9 months to be born, but the fetus of an elephant takes 18 months. For this type of a tamasic veiling to be overcome, we would need to do a lot of tapas. Thus, projections born out of Rajasic and Tamasic veilings will cause a lot of suffering to the person, just like the cold winds will cause severe shivering. Thus, with this beautiful metaphor, Bhagavan explains how Maya becomes the cause of bondage. In all this, we have to note that since ignorance can never really cover the self, it is illusory to begin with, and yet it is so powerful that it creates so many agitations in one's mind. Hari Om. So that was my explanation of this verse, and I didn't even know I had kept this, so I found this. Any questions, or was it very clear? We had to, because we had studied, so we had to give references.
Jayji, it's very clear, very, very clear, and you spoke so well, so well. Thank you.
That's what earned me my nickname, Vancouver.
Yeah, it was very nice. Very, very nice.
Okay. So 144 is just a concluding verse. So then there's bondage. So let's complete this today. एताभ्यामेव शक्तिभ्यां बन्धपुंससमागतः याभ्यां विमोहितो देहं मत्वात्मानं भ्रमत्ययम्. Man's bondage has sprung forth from these 2 powers. Deluded by them, he mistakes his body for the self and wanders from life to life. So he concludes that the bondage is coming from the veiling power of tamas and the projecting power of rajas. And then these vimohito deham. So he mistakes vimohita. Mohita is deluded. Visheshena mohita means extremely deluded. In considering himself as the body, he considers himself as the body, and then he goes from life to life. And that is what bondage is. Most people think, I am free to do everything. What are you talking about bondage? They don't understand bondage in this sense. That is binding us to this world, to this sansar, this world of change. And that's why also I told you in chapter 14 that that bondage, is it even real? That is what we need to also think. Because if it was really real, we could never get rid of it. How can you get rid of something which is really real, like Sat? You cannot get rid of Sat ever, because it's really real. But if you can get rid of bondage, if Bhagwan is saying, if the spiritual masters are saying that you can get rid of bondage, then definitely it can't be real. Om swasti prajabhyav paripalayantam nyayena margena mahim mahishaha go brahmanebhya shubhamastu nityam loka samasta sukhino bhavantu kale varshatu parjanyah prithvi sasya shalini desho yam kshobarahita brahmana santu nirbhayaha. Om sarvesham swasti bhavatu sarvesham shantir bhavatu sarvesham purnam bhavatu sarvesham mangalam bhavatu sarve bhavantu sukhinah sarve santu niramayaha सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ओम असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम। Hari Om everybody.